Lucy Coleman, congratulations on your film
Thank
Hot
you.
Mess. Just to start off,
Yes, mate.
Lucy, can you, in a nutshell, describe the story for us? In particular, the main themes you wanted to explore. Can you outline them, please?
Yeah, so I came out of film school and had really kind of and wanted to get cracking and just go make a film. But I had gone through what you see Loz experience in the film in that final year of my post grad, and I think what I kind of wanted to like dig up was the contradiction of Loz wanting to be this kind of young modern woman, but also kind of having this complete creative and life and existential freak out, and how quickly she's willing to um, flip over and just like see a man as the potential solution to all her problems. And uh, yeah, and the kind of like foibles that then go along with that pursuit. So that was kind of what I was wanting to dig into.
So the character Loz is based very much on your experience. Having seen the film and enjoyed it thoroughly, Loz, Laura, as her mother calls her, is a very complicated, very confused character. I'm very interested to know the themes you wanted to explore in this film because you seem to be making a lot of very definite points about millennials. So before I venture, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but before I venture some thoughts, I want to just hear from you what it was you wanted to identify in this film about young people trying to make it.
Yeah, I don't think I was trying to make any kind of like generalized statements about millennials. But I was like, I really like this Charlie Kaufman quote: "What is unique to you is specific to everyone." And so I really was pulling out kind of my own humiliating experiences, knowing that I was sure that there would be other people that were experiencing that. Yeah, and I think, as I kind of said before, I think one of the main themes that I wanted to look at was the kind of contradictions of modern womanhood, and this young woman who had this very like ardent pursuit and like very kind of strong focus in her dreams and what she wanted to be doing with her life, but then like was staring the future of her career in the face of stepping out of film school and oh no, sorry, stepping out of like the playwriting course that she's been doing and into the future, and is just kind of basically scared shitless. um and she basically ends up going on this kind of clusterfuck of an adventure chasing this guy throughout the film as a way to avoid her problems. So yeah, I was sort of thematically exploring, what it is to be a young creative, what it is to just be a young person following your own path in the world, the contradictions of being a young woman and dating and being an idiot chasing around a guy when you sort of apparently have these strong ideals of being a feminist. Yeah, there were sort of a few things going on that I was wanting to look at.
There are two key dialogue exchanges in this film that I wanted to ask you about. One is the argument that she has with Rachel, where Rachel makes the point about how she has this opportunity to finish writing a play that her theatre group really, really likes, and on the back of that might get a writer's residency. Yet she's instead concentrating on something she knows is not being favoured. And Rachel makes the point to her that you are too lazy to finish this other work, that you think you have a right to success, that she is not willing to put in the hard work to open up an opportunity that's staring her right in the face. Now, Lucy, I think a lot of older people would see that as reflecting the current criticism that millennials, one, can't take criticism, don't understand or two, don't understand the value of compromise, and three, just are too unwilling to put in the hard yards in order to make something happen. What say you?
I don't think I have a very different idea now of procrastination and the fear that blocks you, and I don't see it as laziness anymore. I think Loz is really scared, and I think that she's facing a lot of mental blocks with her work, and she's denying pulling up her bootstraps and getting on with the job, and that's why she's fucking around and chasing this guy and being an idiot. And she does really need Rach to slap her in that moment and be like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you're going to give up and you haven't even finished this play. I personally don't think millennials are a lazy generation in the slightest. I think we're a generation of activists and people that are really loud and vocal in wanting to move the world in a better direction. So I don't think that I think boomers have that idea of, millennials need to get their shit together or whatever. I actually don't think millennials are like that whatsoever. I think we're a very ambitious and interesting generation. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does, because basically what you're doing quite intelligently and articulately is pushing back on the suggestion that the film is intended as a critique to millennials. That I think that different people see films in different ways. And this is, I guess it's one way to interpret it. The scene with the mother, where she's arguing with the mother, again, you have there the 25-year-old arguing with the mother, who is saying to her, finish your degree, get a job, finish the play that they like. She's imparting what, by any fair measure, is very sensible, common sense advice. It looks like, Lucy, that you are there illustrating the difference between the boomer mentality and the millennial mentality. But I'm getting the sense from what you're saying that that's overthinking it. That what we're in fact seeing is simply well, not simply, but what we are seeing is the interaction between two characters, one of whom is in a mess, and the other one who has a clear vision of what she should do.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. They're definitely two characters. I'm definitely not writing allegorically, a boomer talking to a millennial. I'm definitely writing two characters that, that character of Loz's mum is very much based off my mum, and many conversations that we've had of, my mum's idea of what a job is and what the workforce looks like and all of that kind of stuff. And then my idea of becoming a filmmaker, and it is a very different financial path and a very different path stability wise. So it's very much writing from two characters, and I think in that moment what Loz is wanting from her mom is comfort and a hug, and she's not getting it. Instead she's getting her mom being like, well, what the fuck do you want? Like, if you all you're doing is bitching and moaning. So, like, yeah, I'm going to tell you what I think. And, Loz's mom's attitude is stop farting around and go and get a job. That might help you out. But, yeah, Loz has a very different idea. And she's just kind of wanting a bit of sympathy.
Now, she is a very funny, very complex and confused character trying to work herself out. Lucy, a common conversation about, structuring or building a film is that your main character, has got to be likable to some degree. Just how much sympathy do you think people will have for this girl?
I didn't think about it like that. I didn't structure the film to be like, how much sympathy are we having for Loz at this given moment? I wrote the film to kind of start her where she was, ambitious but scared, and she gets really triggered then when the prospect of this play gets taken, or the financial funding for this play gets taken away from her, and it really triggers this big springboard of her then latching onto Dave and wanting him to be the solution to her problems, and really trying to solve her anxieties in every other way other than just sitting down and going, okay, this is what I'm really scared of. She's running off drinking, she's running off partying, she's running off chasing boys.
On the one hand, she's a very funny character. On the other hand, she does act pretty stupidly, so sympathising with her can be a bit of a struggle. You're not writing the thing trying to measure how is the audience reacting at this point. You basically sort of wrote it from your own experience and use that as the guiding principle of the writing.
Yeah, I wrote it as Loz's emotional and character transformation throughout the course of the film. I wasn't kind of pinpointing particular moments of sympathy. I was more kind of going, well, what are we looking at in the first act? Where is our character in the first act? Where is she at the beginning of the second act? What's our midpoint? Like, what does she emotionally undergo? And that's kind of our moment with Rach in the kitchen, where she kind of gets slapped in the face and confronted with her flaws, to kind of use very like technical jargon. That was kind of how I went about it. And by the third act and the end of the film, spoiler alert, we do see Loz standing on her own 2 feet again, and with her, wanting to pursue her dreams again, and with like this fuel for fodder, and she's kind of like unblocked some of those mental blocks that she's been experiencing with her work. So that was kind of more the approach I came from.
Would you agree with this, that the previous generation to you didn't have a quarter-life crisis? By the mid-20s, they were too busy paying off a house or getting married or whatever. It wasn't until midlife that they were allowed to have their nervous breakdown and have their crisis. Is the quarter-life crisis something specific to your generation, or don't you agree with that? What do you think?
I think it probably is. I don't know. I mean, I've spoken to my dad like a fair bit about how different his life was, at life phases that I've been at, and I've got 3 brothers as well, compared to what him and my mum lived through. And I think, my dad always kind of just says that him and my mum were just living in a much simpler time. It was just more black and white, the choices that you made. But it kind of obviously like came with its own levels of how fucked up things were as well. Like, my mum says that when she left school, that her choices were to become a primary school teacher, a nurse, or a receptionist. So yeah, sure. Like, my generation, we're living in a hell of a lot more complicated era, but at least I have the option of having a hell of a lot wider range of what I want to pursue with my career, and have a lot more like independent ambitions than kind of what my mum's generation was of, she was very much looking to kind of work, find a partner, have kids, all that kind of stuff.
Do you think choice paralysis is part of the problem?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
The performances in this film are just so naturalistic, and the dialogue is, on the one hand, very natural and flows beautifully, yet is packed with character and story exposition invisibly. Invisible exposition. It's a hard thing to pull off. Can you tell me how you got these wonderful performances out of even the minor characters, and how hard or how much you worked on the dialogue to make it sound so natural?
Oh, thanks, Jim. That's lovely. It was a real process. I wrote the first draft of the script, wrote the second draft, and that was really nailing structure, character, all those kind of fundamental things. And there was definitely like a lot of voice on the page for sure. Like, I had a really good understanding, of course, who Loz was, and those characters in that world are obviously me and my friends. So I had a really strong grasp of how they all sounded. But then I was so fortunate with the cast, with Sarah, who plays Loz, and Marshall, who plays Dave, Julia, who plays Jen, and Kenny, who plays Rach, that they were young emerging comedians or actors, or and we're like, hell yeah, we really want to put our best foot forward and we're going to throw ourselves into this. So we had a really long rehearsal process, and we workshopped a lot and we improved a lot. And I always knew, like, we would basically start a rehearsal and do a couple of reads of the scene, throw the scene away, and then I would really work with the actors to be like, okay, when are times in your life when you've experienced this, and then we'd improv heaps and heaps, bring it all back to sort of the like cornerstones of the scene. And I would really let the actors bring a lot of their own flourishes to the script as well, because I'm really a believer of collaboration, and 5 heads is better than 1, and all of that kind of stuff. So and then then it was kind of making sure that the scene is on track, on point, that we're hitting those kind of ABC marks, and then everybody felt super comfortable on set because we'd done it so many times. Everybody knew their beats so well. Everybody was having so much fun. So yeah, that it was definitely a process, but one that was like thoroughly enjoyable.
One thing you do identify in this film, which is I think it's probably a bigger problem now than it was when you made the film. You identify text anxiety.
Yeah.
Which is just you can't get away from the phone. You're constantly waiting for some sort of response, some sort of positive affirmation from the phone. Can you just for a moment just speak to that issue?
I think what Loz is experiencing is more than just not being able to get away from the phone. It's the validation that she's wanting from Dave, and she's so desperate for his validation and him to just throw his arms open and be like, I'm here to rescue you, Loz. That's what she wants. That's what she's wanting from those messages, and that's why she's putting so much pressure on them. And that's something I chronically dealt with in that time of my life, was like just dying for a guy's validation and like him to just be there. And it would send me absolutely crazy, that kind of back and forth texting and waiting for their replies and everything. But I think it's more a reflection of Loz being in a very insecure place than it is her not being able to separate herself from her phone. Because like, if I now look at myself and the relationship I have with my phone, it's more like the other people on it. And I certainly don't behave that way anymore when I'm texting back and forth with guys and stuff.
Did you have a version of this film when you were writing it where there's like a fully developed third act where she does get her life together?
No. No, because I wasn't in that place myself. I think the film ends where it ends because she gets, she gets a semblance of an elixir, in that she is back on her own 2 feet. She's starting therapy. She's back creating, which is the biggest one, is that she's back creating, she's back writing songs, she's back on her own path of, her own creative work. And she's 25. So yeah, she's not going to have her life together for another 10 years or something. So no, there never was a point where the third act was going to be some like Hollywood wrapped up in a bow. She's got it all figured out, because that just absolutely wouldn't be authentic to the story.
I come to you, Lucy Coleman. I saw your little film, Hot Mess, absolutely loved it. Would love to give you a couple of $1 million, whatever you need, to give the film a third act. We'd like to see another 10 or 15 minutes where she does get her life together. Would you do it for a big distribution deal across America? We'll give you lovely cinema distribution once COVID is over across America, and we'll give you a lovely first look deal for your next film. What do you say?
I wouldn't, because as I sort of mentioned before, I think it's really authentic the way that it is. That was how, that was sort of, I just wanted the third act to kind of be these like small moments of her friendship on the bed, of her reconnecting with her, you know, best friend Rach, and finding that creative life again. I don't think it needed like the bigger kind of getting her life together, because that's just not authentic to the character. So no, I wouldn't.
Congratulations on your deal with Netflix. How involved were you
Thank you.
in securing that? Did you have to do any work, or was it all someone else lobbying on your behalf?
So I was really fortunate that at the end of last year, Filming Presents, which is a new Australian distributing company, came on board the film and acquired Hot Mess. So yeah, we've worked with Filming this year, 2020, to just do some amazing things with Hot Mess. Like myself and Sarah did event screenings, like went to event screenings that we set up in Sydney, Newcastle, and Melbourne. And then we released the film on TVOD first. So it was on like iTunes, Google Play, all of that. We're on airlines, we're on Qantas and Virgin. And then, yeah, Netflix has been kind of the, this amazing kind of deal that Filming Presents secured for us. So that was amazing.
Can I ask what you're doing now? How do you get by?
Yeah, so I am a full-time filmmaker now, which is awesome. I wasn't up until the beginning of this year. I was still nannying and waitressing and all those other things. But this year I've been incredibly fortunate to have, yeah, writing jobs that have sustained me like really well. And hopefully I'll be back making some TVCs next year. And I've got a few projects I want to be getting off the ground in 2021 as well.